So our topic of conversation was SLAs with teeth. And the first thing we looked at is look at your SLA, and don't just think of an SLA within just your provider, your cloud provider. You've got to understand the actual supply chain effectively, because you've got to look at your local ISP. If you've got a single ADSL connection to the cloud, and if that goes down, then it doesn't matter if your servers in the cloud are up. Your office might be able to not be able to access it, or offices around the world, or home users. So your ISPs, look at the cloud provider, and then potentially look at their ISPs as well, and what other links do they have in their supply chain, what other things you need to look at. The other key thing here is look at your SLA with your shared risk. And when you actually look at how much downtime costs you, if you say, well, 4 hours of downtime will cost our business this much money. So for example, we're talking about insurance services, and if an online insurance company can't take payments and get people doing the travel insurance, it costs them tens of thousands of pounds an hour. Okay? But does your SLA compensate you for that? Or is it possible to do that? Balance here though is, actually often the SLAs that you'll get from a cloud provider will be better than your internal SLAs. So often when you look at your actual own business, if your Exchange server went down, for example, it might take you a day to get it back up. Whereas with a cloud provider, it might just be an hour or so to get it back up for instantaneous. So often your SLA can be better. Yeah. I think the one thing with SLAs is that people want to, save money by moving to the cloud, but then also want to have better service as well. So it's always a balance, isn't it? If you say, well, actually, it's costing me £10,000 a year to run this on premise, I can do it for £1,000 offline. Well, you've got to, if you save money, you've got to take a reduction potentially in service, or you've got to look, you can't, if you want better service, you might need to pay for it. So one of the key things to do is look at your taking your data offline. That's one of the key things. Take email, for example. Everyone just generally uses cached email on their Outlook. They can access it on their laptop. They can access that email when they're on the train. They don't always have that connection. And that's one of the key things to look at. Can your users work anywhere in the world, with the data offline? Do they have to rely on an SLA, rely on an internet connection? So don't focus on the SLA. Focus on actually, can your users do their job? Don't have SLAs with any server uptime. One of the key things is you'll get an SLA, and say 99 or 5.9's SLA on server uptime. It's often not the server that breaks, or the internet connection that breaks, it's the application that breaks. So maybe look to put an SLA on, can this form be submitted so that I can actually take a payment? It doesn't matter if the logo's a bit wonky or the page isn't quite displayed correctly, but does it actually function, does it actually work? That's the key thing. Work with a partner to understand the SLA chain. We do a lot of work with companies where we'll go in, and it's not just here's the cloud provider, it's now look at all of your offices. Let's put redundant ADSL lines on your offices. Let's have a look at your home users, let's have a look at how they're working, look at offline working, and let's analyse all the security along the whole chain and what you can actually, what time can really get.
Just on that, actually, I will add to that point. There was a really good comment Taylor made around threshold SLA. I guess the point is, there's going to be elements that a vendor or another organisation won't cover, but if you work with a partner to start to look at what your current SLA is, because irrespective, you will have a degree of uptime, whether you've calculated it or not. And it's working with a partner to measure that, plan it, and potentially set targets within a threshold working forward. Thanks, Jason.
Last one?
You spoke a lot, wasn't you?
We did. The last couple of points are, again, back to that value again. For example, if you're getting services for free, such as Twitter, or you're getting it for very, very cheap, think about the SLA you're going to get there. You can't really complain if it goes down because you're not paying anything for it. I think there's a perception now if it's cloud-based, it should be up all the time. Even if it's free. Okay. An SLA shouldn't replace good architecture. You can have an SLA on servers being up, you have an SLA and that sort of stuff, but things can still go down that things aren't covered in the SLA. So think about the architecture. You can use things like content delivery networks. We talked about websites being swamped. Well, Ferrari's website, for example, and other websites like that, use content delivery networks. So what happens on F1 day when everyone goes onto the Ferrari website, of course, it's served locally out of Asia, it's served locally out of Australia, it's served locally out of that. And what you do is you take SharePoint and replicate it around the world so that it's never one single point. So we have local instances of things. And you can just use the delivery networks. And they're built into things like Windows Azure right now, these content delivery networks. And the last thing is look at graceful degradation. So you can look at other products as well. So we use specific hardware and server products, and I know sites like the BBC do. So what you can actually do, for example, if your sites are absolutely getting swamped, well, what things should you start turning on first? But if you've got high quality video, maybe degrade that video down to medium quality, then down to low quality, or stop the video, just keep the sound. You know, and look at the bits that will degrade first of all, because you can't guarantee everything's going to be up all the time. You know, but what bits can you start turning off? So can you build that into your SLA?
Thank you very much. Thank you.